Hello guys, welcome back to the Beastie Room. Now we're going to have another rehouse today. We're slowly getting back into these glass enclosures. We have got limited space, as you well know, but there's a few bits and pieces that I really want to get back into glass. One of them being our female geniculata. Now you would have remembered in the old place we had her in a big custom tank. Now we fortunately haven't got room to have that tank in this room, so since we've moved and everything else, she has been temporarily housed in this box here, this sort of rub type affair, which is perfectly adequate. It does the job, but it's just not very good to look at. And we have got a soft spot for this spider, so we really want to get her back out, get her in a nice enclosure. So we're going to set up this 30 by 30. Now, she doesn't actually, she's one of them spiders that don't really move around a great deal. So this is going to be plenty big enough to maintain her and keep her in a nice healthy state of play, shall we say. So what we'll do, we'll move her out of the way, and once we get this set up, we'll have a real good look at her. Now we're going to make up like a woodland type scenario. Now, as you guys know, these guys come from Brazil, and they do like it hot and humid. So we're going to make up a nice foresty sort of affair, and see how we get on, shall we? Right then. So we're going to. This is just a mix. This substrate here is a mix of straightforward potting compost, along with some cocoa fibre that we had left over. And as we said in the last video, we do try and recycle much of our substrates. So you can't do it with everything, but the majority of what we keep, we can. So we got asked many questions because I didn't really elaborate on it in the last video. When we're recycling our substrate, we use it for pretty much most of the spiders, but the ones that we don't use it for are anything that's a real heavy kicker. So, hair kicker. So anything like the brachypelmas, we don't reuse their stuff. The sturmies, apophysis, any of the big theraphosas, we don't tend to use theirs either. And this is because they lay down hair in the web, which then in turn ends up inside the substrate. The nandus are another one. They're a pain in the neck for kicking hairs. They're horrible things, really. So we don't use their stuff either. But all of the things like the pokies, all the Asian arboreal stuff, we can reuse all of their stuff, no problem at all. So by doing so, it saves us a lot of money. It really does. I've probably gone a bit overboard here. I think might take one out. So yeah, so it saves a lot of money, and let's face it, every penny we save is a good penny. So right, what we're going to do, we're literally just going to fill this up here. We're not going to have a drainage layer in this. We are going to work on the theory of watching our soil, and that is going to show us where and what we need. Right, so what we can do, put a little bit more up in here. Lay that like that. Now bearing in mind, our spider will dig away into this. Now we've got this lovely stuff here. This is, you can have a look at this. This is really wet. This is freshly collected branches that were just laying on the floor, and because they've been laying on the floor, you can see they are soaking wet, and you can see all the stuff underneath here. Remains of a slug there. We don't really need him, although he ain't going to cause any harm in what we're doing, but you get all sorts of stuff living underneath here as well. And you can see this moss is absolutely beautiful, so we can use this, and we just pick this up off the floor, and you'll find when you're collecting your stuff, always go for the stuff that's fallen, the stuff that's on the floor, because generally speaking, that will be the better stuff for what you want. You know, a lot of the stuff that's still growing, don't go breaking branches off of trees and things like that. That's not really a good idea. So always go for the stuff that's rotten. You can see again here, this is all really, really rotten. Very, very soft wood. If you've got things like your millipedes, your isopods, all that sort of stuff, this is the sort of stuff they feed on. See how soft that is? It's just crumbling away. It's just rotten wood. And they feed on this. So you can also use it to keep your isopods happy. They like what we call white wood, which is old dead wood. So we're going to use this as well. We're going to have a little bit more soil. What I remember is this sort of stuff is real easy, nice and quick and easy to do. I'm just going to put a little bit over the top of that. I'm going to lay that like that. We've got another bit here. So all we're doing is really we're just trying to make dimensions now. That's all we're doing. We'll just feast that in there like so. Got a bit there. There we go. Now we've got some moss here. We can use this moss as well. So we're going to break this away. This has been sat out in the garden. As you can see, it's soaking wet. There's bits of lichen and stuff growing in it as well. It's really cool stuff. So we can put this in here. Just like that. Now with this type of spider, because it really does like the moisture, we can get away with a lot of this moss. It's really, really good. So we can keep this moss nice and wet and look after it. So don't forget, if it dries out too much, it will eventually die. I'm going to put a piece in here just to finish this piece of ground here. Like that. She's going to love this. And then we're going to put our water bowl over here. That can go there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get a bit of tissue, just so we can wipe our glass down. You don't want to be trying to clean your glass once your spider's in there. It will upset her. Right. We'll just put our water bowl there. Now the reason we're sticking it over here is because when she comes in here, she will dig some of this out, and some of it's going to end up going on here. And what we'll probably find is after a day or two, when she's finished mucking about, we can literally lift this piece of moss up, sprinkle it off a bit, and then we'll place it back in again. She'd have done with her digging by then. She may well web some of it up, which sometimes causes a bit of an issue because it ends up killing the moss because it can't breathe under all the webbing. But hopefully she'll just settle up in there. She won't be too bad. Right, so we've got our, can't quite reach. And just fill our water bowl up. So what we're doing now, this is quite a large spider. Let me save this stuff for later. This is quite a large spider, and this sort of tank now, as it stands, is okay as a maintenance enclosure. If we wanted to breed this girl, we would opt for putting her in something a little bit bigger. But as she is now, she literally just needs to be maintained now and looked after. This is more than adequate. It's going to be fine. She can use every inch of this. So what we're going to do, they are prone for kicking. You want to come and have a little look in here. And you can see there, she hasn't long molted out. She's absolutely beautiful. You see these lovely peachy sort of colours, creamy colours, really nice. You notice the abdomen there, she's fully haired up as well. So she doesn't get stressed out too much. She knows we're here now. And some of this will be because we're right above her and we're talking. She can feel the air changing as we speak. So the air will be changing around her and she can feel that. But as you can see there, she's absolutely lovely. She's in perfect condition. And I'm sure she'll be glad to come out of this box. So, oh, look at that, a little half-hearted scratch of her bum then. It won't be so half-hearted when we go to box her up. So, what we're going to do... No, I think we can stay with where we are. We're just going to put this down. And we're going to come in the front here. There you go. We don't actually need her to get totally in the box. We just need to pick her up like this. She's a big heavy girl, so you've got to be careful. We can lay her down in there. There you go. No, not too much stress at all there. Nice and easy. As you can see there, she's got more than adequate room. She can get about, do her thing. That's one less box on the shelf. Now this girl is full grown. And I really recommend these guys as an ideal sort of beginner spider. Some may say they're a bit of an intermediate because they can be fast. They have got a really, really strong food orientation about them. So they will literally pounce on anything. So you do have to be a little bit careful. But in terms of looking after them, they are really easy. And they're very forgiving. So although they like this humid environment, you can see where she's come from. We've kept her quite dry and they can deal with that as well. So they have a very, very broad spectrum in their care, all depending on what you want to do with them. So she's looking absolutely fabulous. I don't know whether she's actually going to have a little wander. She's very half-heartedly, she just rubs her bum just very gently, just to say she can do it if she wants to. Now in terms of feeding, you can see with this girl, you look at the size of her abdomen, it's almost about the same sort of size as her carapace. Very, very similar. And this is the sort of size we want to be at, especially if we're just maintaining them. If we were going to try and breed this girl, we would beef her up a little bit. We'd get that abdomen a little bit bigger. We'd start throwing in a bit more food. And just to get her condition up a little bit. But as a maintenance, this is the ideal sort of size where we want to be. There's far too many of these that you see online that have huge abdomens, and this is where they're overfed. And it can be quite dangerous for them. Now, one of the things that we get asked about is we have mesh tops on top of these enclosures, and I'm sure the righteous brigade out there will jump on it, because this is a terrestrial spider in a 30 centimeter high enclosure. This is not going to be of an issue to this spider. She's been in taller ones without any issues at all. This style of mesh we've had no problem with whatsoever. We don't get no grief with that either. So it's not to say that some spiders may get caught up. We have never experienced it. In all the years that we've been doing it, we've not had any problems. And we keep mesh on all of our enclosures without any problems whatsoever. So she will be fine in here. She'll be able to walk up here, and it will give her access to the roof. We won't find that she'll be climbing on it. We've never really seen her do much of that. I think in her old enclosure she did climb across the top of the roof. It's not really an issue. These guys aren't totally stupid. You know, they know what they're up to. And quite often or not, I think some of the problems that have been where spiders have been caught in mesh is because the enclosure itself is not suitable in the way that it's been made up and the way they are being cared for. So if you've got a spider that can't settle because it's not happy, then it's going to be venturing all the time, looking for somewhere to, looking to get out of that environment. So it's down to us to make sure the environment is good enough that our spider doesn't feel the need to want to escape, if that makes any sense. So this is what we try and do with all of our spiders. We try and give them an environment where they feel secure and happy, and we don't have the problems. It's that simple. It really is that simple. So that is her. So now with feeding wise, we will give her, to keep her in this sort of condition, one good sized roach, dubia roach, a week is more than enough. There is no need to overdo it. It is tempting to overdo it because, like we say, they do have a very strong feeding attitude, and it's great to watch our spiders feed, but try and refrain a little bit. It's only a week away and you can do it again. So try and stick to them sort of methods, and you'll keep a nice healthy spider, which will be nice and long lived. Now, heat wise, again, they can put up with a huge range. So literally from like 70 up into the high 80s, no worries whatsoever. We keep our room at 80, so that seems to be really, really good. Out of interest, when we talk about temperatures, we often get into that subject of this spider is okay at room temperature. Now, room temperature is something that I detest with a vengeance. I cannot stand the term room temperature, because every room is different and everything is different. So quite often or not, when you find people commenting that their spiders are lethargic, they don't move, or they don't feed, or they stay in pre-molt forever, a lot of this is down to the fact that they're kept on a shelf in the kitchen and it's up and down fluctuating temperatures. And 9 times out of 10, they never get really very warm. So they're always on the cool side. Now, because they are kept so cool, everything slows right down, absolutely right the way down. So by keeping them warmer, you are mimicking more of what that spider comes from. Its area, its location, so its natural habitat. So I would always urge that you keep your spiders in a decent temperature. And if that means putting a heat mat on or heating a room or doing whatever, then that is what I suggest you do. Your spider will thank you for it in the long run. It will be a much happier spider. In the UK, yeah. I mean, if you go into other countries, if you're lucky enough, if you're abroad and you're in Asia, anywhere like that, you've got lovely temperatures all year round and you don't need anything, because many of the spiders you're keeping are coming from that exact environment. So you don't have to worry. In America, it's a different thing. In America, quite often, from what I've understood from subscribers, is that quite often out there, it's either a very, very dry heat or a very, very humid situation. So they suffer with other problems. So wherever you are in the world, we suffer with different problems. Here in the UK, it gets quite cold of a winter time. If you're in Scotland, it gets very, very cold. So you need to be giving extra heat to your spiders in order to keep them. Same in America. In America, it drops down to crazy low temperatures. And so they have to maintain their spiders in a different way. And this is where your knowledge will build, and how you'll become a better keeper is because you will actually start to tailor your care with regards to what the environment is asking for around you. So it's really, really, there is no black and white. You can't be in America and watch this video and copy exactly what we do in temperatures and humidity and things like that, because you're in a completely different environment. What you can do is you can take points of information from it and then tailor them to your environment. It's very, very crucial that we think a little bit outside the box. It's not all particularly black and white. We can give guidelines. Guidelines is what is being offered here. And, that will make the difference, is actually changing those and bending those guidelines to fit your scenario. So it's really worth thinking about. Really cool. Now, we said about the substrate. We can reuse our substrate. We keep getting asked, what brand of potting compost do we use? The simple answer is the cheapest one you can find. The only difference being, I like the fine stuff. Some of it's quite coarse. I prefer the fine stuff because I think it looks better, it's easier to work with and things like that. But it really doesn't matter what brand you're going for. And most composts nowadays, I don't think I've found any composts actually that have been dangerous in terms of additives and things. I think we've got very hung up over the years about additives in different things that we use as substrates and things like that. I mean, if you think about it, some years ago everyone was creating merry hell about using natural moss and branches because it was dangerous. We've shown that it really isn't, and it can enhance what you're doing. So think about it with a little bit of common sense. When you see that there are different things added to your potting compost in the garden centre and that, 9 times out of 10 these are plant foods and things like that. They are not going to give you any issues. Your spider's not going to get damaged by those. So don't be worrying about it. We often hear about insecticides. 9 times out, I've not seen any compost that have got actual insecticides in them. So always read the label, but think about it with a little bit of common sense as well. We also get asked about the plants that we use, because we use many house plants in our builds as well. And these all come from local garden centres, B&Q, all these places. And we quite often get people throwing their arms up in the air, all worried because the plants are sprayed with insecticides and things. Now, that is probably true to some extent when they're coming in from the main areas. I don't actually know of anywhere that like garden centres that are still using them in that respect. So most of them will hose down their plants and everything else, but I don't know of any that actively use insecticides to clean them. And house plants being inside, I've never heard of it. And we know a few people that have been in and out of garden centres working there and what have you, and they've never mentioned it or commented on it either. So I never worry about it. As long as your plants are clean, that you shouldn't really have any issues, and we've never had any. We've been doing it for years. So, you know, relax a little bit, just use your common sense and you won't go far wrong. This girl hasn't moved at all. She's going to sit there now until we get her back on the shelf and everything goes nice and quiet, and then eventually she'll start having a little search around and a walk about. Right. Well, I hope you enjoy that. I'm sure she's going to enjoy it. Lovely looking enclosure. We'll get that up on the shelf, and that's her sorted now for the near future until it comes time to revamp it and clean it all out and all the rest of it. But I'm sure she'll last a long, long time just as it is. Right then, don't forget, be calm, be gentle, and love your spider. And I will see you soon, guys.